Welcome to Scrolling to Death. Today I have with me tech entrepreneur and founder of We Are Eight, Zoe Kalar. Hi, Zoe.
Hi, Nikki. Great to be here.
I am so excited to have you. We've already had a couple conversations and I've loved them, and I can't wait to have listeners learn about your story and what you have developed at We Are Eight. We have a big announcement to share today that's hot off the press, but we'll get to that at the end. And so tell me first about your background. Tell us, you're in the tech, you've been in the tech space a long time. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I've spent 35 years in media and tech and data, and I grew up watching. I always loved America. We aspired, being an Australian girl in Melbourne, we watched Bewitched, and I can still sing jingles actually from the late 70s, Nikki. The funny thing is I can't remember any of the digital ads that I've seen on the other platforms recently, but I can sing jingles from the 70s. And to me, America is the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Yeah.
And just the whole idea of media connecting people, I was really fascinated with from a really young age, and how it shaped us and how it drove culture and how it elevated change and created change in the world. So an obsession with media's ability to do that, bring people together. I was also really, in my first business, I worked with the biggest telco provider in Australia. So really fascinated by infrastructure that can people connect. But it was really the human side of the connection and how we could enable that in really healthy ways that I always was in love with. And I actually took a deviation. The company that I built before this was a data company where we tracked the ad spend for the whole. I lived in New York. My kids actually sound more like you than me. I lived in New York for 12 years, and we tracked the $500 billion of ad spend.
Wow.
And we could literally see, we built data systems inside all the media agencies, and it was like the lights going off. We could see Facebook from the beginning, then over the course of years, a decade, take all the money out of the market, all the ad money. And we could see at the same time the implosion of publishing, journalism, local news. TV held its own for a while, and now it's imploding. And what was insanity to me at the time was all of those publishers were giving their content to Facebook and Instagram for free and saying, follow me there. And it was like everyone giving away their freedom, everyone just giving it away. And I was thinking, is anyone else seeing this? The media is not competing with each other. It's actually big tech taking all the control, all the content. There was a moment, Nikki, about 9 years ago when the Federal Reserve came out with a stat saying 37% of all Americans cannot find $400 in an emergency. And at that moment, I realized that each of us is worth between $200 and $400 to Mark Zuckerberg and Meta every year, and that we, the people, are the largest unpaid workforce in human history. So that's where I got really obsessed with a couple of things, that the economic problem that, that they are incentivized to keep us scrolling to death, literally.
Yep.
And they want to do that to force more ads and less friends into our feeds.
Yeah. Wow, Zoe. Okay. Let's back up a little bit. You talked about how these social media companies, it was exciting at first because they were meant to connect people. You got to connect with people, bring people together. You got to see what was going on across the world and build dreams around that and create positive changes altogether. no matter where everybody was. And I think that something changed over time, right? Where it was no longer about connecting people, it was about addicting people. And that's what I think the social media companies, when I hear them testifying in Congress, they'll still say, like, it's all for the sake of connecting people. Like, the bad stuff doesn't matter because this is the way of the future and how we're going to connect. What happened over time? You spoke a little bit about it, that they need our eyes on the screen to make more money off of us. But what happened over time? Can you dig into that a little further?
Yeah, I had a team studying those algorithms actually across all the platforms over time, and it was fascinating because their entire economic model is dependent on scrolling. And in order to keep us addicted, it's like the worst ever abusive boyfriend you could imagine. It's giving you some likes, addicting you to this. How many followers do you have? Which is a misnomer anyway, because even when someone has 1 million followers, only about 5% of people actually see their content because of the algorithms.
Right.
And so I think in order to keep us scrolling, they needed to control what we see, how we feel, and keep our emotional state on edge. And so they elevated the control. They served us things into the algorithms that made us feel edgy and divide us. I mean, in the old days, we used to get together and talk about the shows we'd seen. There was a lot of commonality. Now everyone has completely individualized feeds and take us down to the lowest common denominator. And there's nothing to talk about. Like, it's just everyone screaming into the void, wanting to be seen in a desperate hope of getting attention and some likes. The game had changed. And I was reading an article last week about there's 50 million creators on the planet. That's 4 times as many doctors on our planet. Only 4% of them, by the way, earn more than $100,000 a year. Like, most people are barely scraping together survival. And it's this sort of obsession with fame and desperation around the economic piece that has, and just the lack of boundaries on safety. I mean, it's become more and more toxic. We're seeing leaders across the board use language that is really damaging and abusive. And freedom of speech is not hate speech. It's now a race to the bottom. Well, we're at the bottom. I mean, I really think in many ways we saw that early, that they were fueling it's like a gigantic human experiment.
Yeah.
Keep us on edge and anxious.
Right. Why do they want to keep us on edge? So someone will ask, a parent the other day, when I report on some kids in France, 7 teenagers took their life after being served, just inundated with TikTok content that was talking about self-harm and suicide. And TikTok promotes that in the algorithm. And the parent was like, why would TikTok want to promote suicide to a child? And can you talk a little more about why the algorithm wants to keep people on edge and uncomfortable?
Because that keeps us weak. And when we're weak, we can be easily controlled. And when, I know it is
sad.
Weak, and when we're controlled, we can be manipulated. And their whole, I mean, I really, it's devastating, but they want to make more money from us. And they do that by keeping us scrolling. Their whole thing is, we want you here as long as possible. The average teen was reading 4 to 6 hours a day, scrolling on social, whereas that's damaging.
Yeah.
Our whole thing is go and live.
Right.
Tell someone, get inspired, tell someone you love them. And so firstly, that content should all be banned. I mean, our engine detects it, should all be banned. But the second thing is that the ability of that to be served, purposefully served, because when we're vulnerable, we're easily manipulated, and it's
Mhm.
addictive because that
Mhm.
takes people down a horrific dark hole
Yeah.
quickly, so
Yeah.
quickly.
Especially for these young kids who are getting access to social media at any age they want because there's no real age verification. And even you have to be 13 in quotes, but there's no way to verify ages. Do you feel like social media is safe for kids? For kids, anyone at any age to sign up
Oh,
for?
I mean, no,
Hmm.
I do think we are safe.
Yeah.
And that is important because they need to feel heard.
Hmm.
There is they need places to express and share and connect.
Hmm.
And when you talk about the history of Facebook, I mean, I look back and I think Facebook was originally started to judge women and rank them literally in a dorm
Right. No one should
room.
forget this.
Yeah. So if we go back, they sort of turned it into we want to connect the world.
Hmm.
But I believe things become the biggest manifestations of their original
Hmm.
intention.
Hmm.
And it's become a massive manifestation of
Hmm.
judgment and abuse and ranking and no one feeling good enough.
Yeah. I mean,
And
that's Snapchat as well. Original intention was just to sext and have the nude photos go away. And that's still the disappearing message feature at the basis of Snapchat is
yeah,
still fueling bad behavior and harm to children. I mean, that's the whole basis. And that was the original intention of the platform.
right.
You
And
could
now
wrap it
that
up in all different kinds of gift wrap you want. It's still the same thing.
totally, Nikki. And, Snapchat is like a WhatsApp DM connector. But if you go into the discovery feed, that's
Mhm.
now got so much worse over the last 2 years. That's
Yes.
horrific.
Uh-huh.
Now, in terms of what it serves, I think it's damaging for women and men, young
Hmm.
women and men. It
Hmm.
objectifies bodies. It promotes sex.
Hmm.
It promotes sort of just abuse. And it takes us to our most primate version of ourselves,
Hmm.
primal
Yeah.
version of ourselves, worst version of ourselves.
Yeah. And that's something that a lot of parents don't even know is available on Snapchat is the spotlight feed, which is like a for you feed. So it's just all different snaps from all different users and creators across the platform, which would be a cool way to discover things if it was kept safe. But unfortunately, in my experience, I signed up as a 14-year-old for a test account, and within a couple minutes was served videos from inside of a strip club. And supposed to be a 14-year-old girl and just so much sexual content. These platforms make it really hard for parents to know what's going on there. Snapchat, to keep
Mm.
bagging on them, has a My Eyes Only data vault where kids can further hide their content. And so I want to talk about We Are Eight in just a minute, but for parents, do you feel that with the mainstream social media sites, do you feel like parents are able to use the parental controls to keep kids safe on them as they are now?
No, not a chance,
Yeah. Okay.
Nikki. I mean, we are, as parents, we're
Mhm.
competing with the most sophisticated
It,
algorithms and technology that is built to be highly addictive. And I think all the social platforms, until they make them safe,
mhm.
eradicate the algorithms, build further protections, change everything in their constructs,
Mhm.
then we can start to, because, whilst we battle to keep people safe, that's sort of step one.
Mhm.
But step two is what's possible when these kids are inspired.
Right.
Out the other side of this is
Mhm.
this whole new incredible world, because I do think that this generation will change the world.
Mhm.
And I'm still very hopeful for that.
Mhm.
But they respond really well to inspiration. And it's hard to discover that. It's
Mhm.
impossible fighting for any parent against the algorithms.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think they should all be banned,
Mhm.
but I don't want to suppress youth voices. We want to elevate youth voices. We
Mhm.
want to inspire them and help kids see how incredible they are and how their voices
Yeah.
can change the world, the power they have to change the world.
Mhm. and give them an option to connect online that makes them feel good, right?
Oh,
Because right now they come out of their experiences on any social media feeling bad, like almost drugged, like just really out of it, headaches and depressed. And so parents have a hard decision to make. Do we let them connect with their friends and so they're not left out? Or do we keep them off of platforms? It's really hard. And a lot of parents will want to know and ask me, is there any safe platforms? And then so I want to now introduce We Are Eight, and you've really taken on creating a social media platform that is safe and inspiring and empowering. So can you please tell listeners about what you created at We Are Eight?
thanks, Nikki. So, I mean, it's been a life journey, really, because we looked at all of this that was happening. We saw that it was fueling all these things,
Mm-hmm.
that people could be anonymous, that there was no verification, everything you're an expert in. The
Mm-hmm.
algorithms were dividing. And so we had to address three things. We had to redesign the framework
Mm-hmm.
so people could connect. So we have three feeds in parallel. We have a discovery inspiration feed that's like a TikTok entertainment feed, but from the world's best. We've got amazing creators, artists, actors, musicians, record labels, lots of people doing
Mm-hmm.
incredible content to lift us. Then when you swipe left, you've got a following feed. So you actually see your friends
Amazing.
in a private feed. So there has to be that two-way acceptance. So everyone on Eight can have a public feed and a private feed.
Mm.
Um, and it is public by default for under 16. We're releasing that next month. And then you swipe left and then it's conversation. It's like a retro Twitter with no hate. So if you think
Mm.
TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter had a love baby with a conscience with no hate, that is
Beautiful.
what we've built. And in order to do that, we had to do three things. We had to eliminate the algorithms.
Mm-hmm.
So this is full control back to you as a
Mm-hmm.
person. So you see your friends, you follow people, and we verify all the creators and everything at the back end.
Mm-hmm.
So you select who you follow, and then you can link out to healthy websites. So if it is Pink News or BuzzFeed or
Mm-hmm.
whoever, you can link to the publisher or the talent site. It turns everyone into a media channel in a healthy way.
Yeah, that's what I really love in a lot of things, but this is what I really love is that you encourage people to leave the platform and explore information, because all the other social media platforms, they make it really hard to link people away. So you're only getting little bite sizes, little captions or 30-second, 15-second videos about a piece of information that doesn't give you enough information and backing to have an opinion on something. You have to read into these things, right? Before you spew it off in your life. So I really appreciate the prioritization of having people explore information more fully.
And even Gen Zs want to go deeper.
Mm-hmm.
They want to, it's a myth actually that they just want to get this all the time. The attention spans are shortening for sure,
Yeah.
but they're actually desperate for deeper connection.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first thing was addressing the algorithms. The opposite of that is the inspiration that brings people together.
Mm-hmm.
So my friend and I will see the same 8 stage, which then we can talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So it really, that the content reconnects us. The second thing was building, how do we make it safe? And about 4 years ago, my CTO and I said, okay, we can't release our conversation feature, which is our Twitter-like feed,
Mm-hmm.
until we can have protection on every video, every image, every comment, all the language. So we've spent the last 4 years, we've called it 8I, where AI has learnt to protect humanity.
Wow.
And what was interesting in that process is AI is just a reflection. It's machines. And they're just a reflection of humanity. And they have learnt really that we all hate each other, really, that people want money, fame, that it's driven by greed. It's based on quite broken values.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to restructure the values
Mm-hmm.
built on connection, love, respect, all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's detection technology. So for everything, we've got, every form of abuse, toxicity, everything. And then we had to train all the language across. We've got 8 languages now. We're releasing another 22 before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to train, and it's learning still all the time, but all the seriously toxic content is removed.
Amazing. Because that's where kids are getting exposed to a lot of inappropriate things are in those discovery feeds that are not monitored and not reviewed for that type of content well enough. What about when it comes to, adult predators and children communicating? That's a big issue on a lot of the platforms. How are you keeping kids safe from being contacted by strangers who might want to harm them?
So firstly, you can't be anonymous. And actually,
good.
we're releasing in February a biometric authentication as well.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it actually means that you can't be anonymous. It supports age verification because it does sort of determine an age. Part of it because our economic model is built on, we share the ad money, 60%, 50% to people, 10% to Planet Projects, charities, Creator Fund. So having a healthy economic model that doesn't rely on scrolling was the key. So we've taken ads out of all the feeds, and people can choose to watch an ad when and at any time they want. And again, we've just turned off any ads for anyone under 16.
Oh, wow.
It's
Good.
all targeted and protected anyway.
Yeah.
It's interesting because what we're hearing back is they want to be able to earn and donate to charities, because in your in-app wallet, you can pay your mobile bill, pay your Spotify, donate to charities. So we're releasing some innovative things that can help them feel valued and rewarded. But I think it's because we've removed the ad experience in the economics. We've reimagined the whole economics that doesn't rely on scrolling. And so separating that is really key, and having a healthy reimagined. It works better, by the way, for the brands.
Yeah.
And it's better because it protects kids. I mean, I look at kids young women and men getting plastic surgery recommendation. I mean, we've banned all of that, by the way.
Good.
Firearms, oil companies, plastic surgery, gambling.
Illegal drugs being monetized on YouTube recently. Like, it's crazy that these things get through. How will you compete with those big companies that are just trying to squeeze in as many ads as possible? I mean, they're making a ton of money off of these ads. So how does that work? I mean, on a level that parents and I can understand.
Yeah. So at a really base level, in the current platforms, people find ads annoying and interruptive, and they can't tell the difference.
Yes.
And it doesn't even work. The engagement rate is 0.04%. It doesn't, everyone thinks it doesn't work. So in reimagining it, creating a model that people can watch an ad when they want and the money goes into their wallets, firstly, redirects the money from advertisers, because we do make money in the same way as we make money from advertisers. I mean, Meta makes their money from advertisers. Google makes their money from advertisers. The big difference is we block gambling, oil companies, certain things, but we share it with people, Planet Project, charities, because Meta this year will make $200 billion. And $100 billion in the US. Isn't it insane?
It's excessive.
A company that is fueling teen suicide and all the horrific things we know is not instituting protections.
Right.
Is not sharing the money, and that's destroying publishing. It's destroying people. It's destroying
Mm-hmm.
non-profit models. It's destroying our society on every level.
So when someone watches an ad, they get paid for watching the ad. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
So every time I watch an ad, half of the money that the advertisers pay us is shared with the people.
Wow.
So that could be 2 cents, 5 cents, 10 cents. And our mission is to get $1 a day, into the wallets of 800 million people. But
Mm-hmm.
in the US, 150 million people
Mm-hmm.
actually getting $1 a day in their wallets, because then we address that $400 a year stat.
Mm-hmm.
People can help pay their mobile bill. We're doing lots of partnerships so you can pay your Spotify. You
Mm.
can then pay it forward to charities. So it's this funnel of money
Okay.
through to charities. So it's unlocking the distribution with the freedom to link out. It's unlocking the economics from the brands,
Mm-hmm.
and it's creating safety.
Wow. Interesting. And so when you talk about not being able to be anonymous and there being biometrics, is it because you have to you have to scan and show that you're a real person in order to accept money, right? And then connect it to wherever you want to direct
Yeah.
that money to?
Yeah. So firstly, we want safety, and then we want economic protection. So on every level, redesigning it,
Yeah.
we are making sure that people aren't fraudulent.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to your question about protecting kids, we're tracking language all the time.
Yeah.
We're checking people's age. I mean, this is not the place. If you want to be anonymous
Mm-hmm.
and in the dark web,
Yeah.
that exists. Stay there.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
if you
Or stay on Snapchat.
stay on Snapchat, if you want to be inspired and change the world and
Mm-hmm.
feel great every day, our goal is actually, we only really want 8 minutes of your time. And my biggest joy is when people wake up and feel inspired every morning,
Mm-hmm.
because you do feel inspired. When people do watch an ad or they donate, their friends celebrate them because they've made positive impact. So it's this idea that we've got to rebuild trust. Everyone's bruised.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's been in a toxic relationship without knowing it.
Yeah, it's true.
You know it, but most people don't.
Mm-hmm.
We know it. We can feel it. But we don't
think we're stuck. Like we think that this is just the way it is and we don't have any other option because we don't have any, we haven't had any other option to connect with people.
Yeah. And often the economics are the afterthought. I mean, Facebook used to say we're free and always will be, but nothing can be free when they're a public listed company. If you can't see it, then you are the product. And reimagining an economics that is sustainable and healthy, in my mind, is the only way forward. Because firstly, we need the money that's pummeling into the bank accounts of Mark Zuckerberg and big tech. We need that coming back to our societies and our sports clubs and our local infrastructure. And then we need safety. So it's all been designed to be economically healthy, because then you can stay true to your values. For most companies, they've built to judge women. They've grown. They've connected us. And there are those good things, really good things that we want to keep. But then they've thought, oh, my God, how do we monetize this? We've got to monetize the people. And then they've shoved as many ads in, kept us scrolling. And it's been lazy, in my opinion, on not really reimagining or being committed to a healthy world. I mean, I thank God Mark Zuckerberg is emotionally disconnected completely, because how any individual could build tech knowing that, in the UK, it's 5 families a week you lose a child, shocking statistics all around the world. How could you live with yourself? for your own ego and greed. It's insane. It's horrific.
I ask that of people that worked for Facebook and even worked with Mark Zuckerberg, because I can't understand how he can continue to make decisions that put kids in harm's way over profit, or profit over kids' lives. And those are the decisions being made. And it is because, I mean, from what I can gather, they feel like they're connecting people, and that whatever bad things are happening is sort of a minority of the experience, and it's worth it because the bigger picture is to connect people. And that is so horrific.
Do you know, it's funny, this idea of, and look, great, Zuckerberg, you've connected 2 billion people on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
But now is the time. You've also damaged us, controlled us, and abused us.
Mm-hmm.
But now is the time for 2 billion people to be inspired and empowered and back in control of their own lives and their own distribution and their own selves at
Mm-hmm.
every level. And I think it's going to be a rapid evolution, Nikki. I feel really hopeful and
Mm-hmm.
can see it.
Yeah.
That it's now time for the evolution.
Mm-hmm. We're ready for it. Yeah. And parents are ready for it. And kids are ready. Kids and adolescents, they feel ready for something that makes them feel better. And I'm so, hopeful that we're moving in the right direction, and that you spent a decade working on this, because that's what it takes to do it right.
Because you have to be insane.
Mm-hmm.
My thing was, the economics were broken.
Mm-hmm.
We needed to make that healthy. The safety, as a mum,
Mm-hmm.
as a woman, I couldn't just sit by. I could see people talking about the problem, but I couldn't see anyone working on the solution.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken that long, transparently. We couldn't have built the protections till AI got to the level. We could only build those AI models in the last 4 years.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We couldn't do all the multi-language things. Everything now is at a time when we've been able to pull it all.
Mm-hmm. Well, and historically, big tech is what their tagline: move fast and break things. And I think you moved slow and saved people. I think that's how we save people. We move slow.
Well, wait, do you know the funny? I love that. We played the long game.
Yeah.
Which drove some people mad. But within that, we were moving fast and testing and breaking.
Sure. Yeah. You weren't moving. I guess slow's not moving slow.
No.
But moving carefully. You had to do this so thoughtfully and carefully. And
yeah,
I'm so excited about this. Yeah. Okay. So 8 is available now, and I'm going to include links to download that in the episode notes. But you have a big announcement to make that's new this week. And so can you tell parents about what that is? And me, I don't know yet.
So there's an amazing man and group of people in Frank McCourt and Project Liberty and Tamika. Mm-hmm. And I feel like in many ways we've been driven by the same invisible force and the injustice and the horrendous damage to society of big tech and social. Frank wrote the book, Our Biggest Fight. It is incredible.
Love. I know.
And he is so committed. You've interviewed him, and his truth is restoring, giving people control over themselves, their identity, their voices, and restoring the web to its real freedom. And because we don't have traffic to the web now, because social platforms keep us on their super highways of hell and don't let us go to
right.
Well,
yeah.
So Frank and Project Liberty and me and We Are 8 have come together and partnering. We are part of the TikTok bid. I'm supporting that as we really build the future together and reshape that. Bring, really create the world and fast track the world that we want to live in.
Yeah.
So we're both rallying all our collective partners
Amazing.
and fueling this in a really massive way to drive change fast. And he is so respected in the US. I mean, he and Tamika and Project Liberty and what Braxton has built with the data protection side and bringing true freedom brings data protection. We bring distribution freedom, economic model that shares the money back. And we're very excited about the whole partnership and how quickly it's going to accelerate and reshape things.
Good. Okay. And gosh, so for listeners, my interview with Frank McCourt, I'll link to that so you can learn all about his work at Project Liberty and his team. They're the best people and filled with hope over there for a brighter future around how we engage with the internet. And his book, Our Biggest Fight, it's a quick read and I just loved it. I thought that it was a great overview of the problem with the internet today and how we can move toward a safer future around the internet. And I'm so excited that you guys will be partnering. And so tell me what that means a little bit more. So you said you're supportive of their TikTok bid. So for listeners, Project Liberty is putting together a people's bid for TikTok. TikTok, per a law passed in the US this year, will need to be sold to an American-based company or a company that's in a country that we're not at odds with. Frank's team is putting together a bid to buy TikTok and make it safer and really move those 170 million users of TikTok over to a safer version of the internet. I'm incredibly excited to hear that 8 is going to be making that move as well. Can you tell me a little bit about what that means, the partnership? So will We Are 8 be on their new DSNP protocol? Without getting too technical, but
yeah. So we are integrating with their DSMP protocol.
Okay.
Basically means everyone's identity is protected. What they've built is beautiful.
Lovely. Yeah.
And it means that because we're a B Corp, we're protecting everyone. But even for us, we want independent protection and ownership for everyone's identity, their content, everything. So that's beautiful. So we're integrating with that. We want to amplify the adoption and bring social tech that really serves humanity to the world together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, TikTok, all the platforms need to evolve.
Yeah.
And transparently, we want to help them evolve faster, better, in a safer and more inspiring way.
Yeah.
And so we don't just want to bring We Are 8 and everything else disappears. I mean, I think over time that will naturally evolve, but we want to help all the others address these big problems because we've built tech for scale that can really help, particularly TikTok and the amount of Gen Zs and youth that are there, how we can do that, how we can unlock the economic models and really do things in a much healthier way. So we're fully behind Frank's bid for TikTok. It's the people's bid, and we say We Are 8, the people's platform. Yeah, for the people. I mean, our whole goal is to have it, honestly, in every way owned by the people ultimately.
Yeah. And so that we stop giving away our most valuable asset in today's society, which is our data, to use a platform. We have no idea what they're doing with it. I mean,
totally. And it's a lot.
They're doing a lot with it. And with children's data, and these companies are constantly being fined and sued because they're illegally using and selling our children's data, even the data that they're giving at school on the school devices, which is a whole other discussion. But this is
our time.
Our time.
This stealing our time.
Yeah.
And that's all we have on this planet.
Yeah.
And so to elevate people and help people discover the inspiring and the good, I'm very excited about it because we believe it's going to accelerate everything.
Yeah. Okay. So is there anything else you want to share that we didn't cover today about any of the things we talked about or about 8.
Nikki, I want to thank you because the work you're doing is incredible. I've said this to you before, but every parent on the planet needs to hear you talk, and just your dedication is incredible because you are changing the world.
Mm.
And I think it's for every parent to realize that they actually have more power than they imagine,
Mm-hmm.
and their kids as well. And together we can change this. And it starts with them.
Yeah.
It starts by them being part of the new world,
Mm-hmm.
by realizing the power of their voices in a way that can inspire their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And we are moving. Let's all feel hopeful because we're moving from a world where we're fighting for protection
Mm-hmm.
to a world of all getting inspired by what is possible. I mean, I was looking at Taylor Swift, actually. She has 280 million followers. She has to block comments because of the hate.
Yeah.
She only gets about 5% viewing, which is still good,
Yeah.
and only about 2% engagement. When anyone from Taylor Swift or one of our kids who has 5,000 followers on 8 can then unlock their voices, inspire others. I mean, Taylor will end up with 80 million people going to her website. She won't be singing at halftime entertainment. She'll be bidding to
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl rights on
Yeah.
her platform. And I think what's hopeful is how our youth can really transform others' lives and get into the mindset of I'm more valuable
Mm-hmm.
than just showing body parts.
Yeah.
I am valuable because of what I bring to the world and what I do for others, and
Mm-hmm.
value of my voice in the world,
Yeah.
and the value of conversations. That makes me feel really hopeful.
Yeah. Gosh, me too. And thank goodness for you. You're really inspiring everybody. I mean, I've been so inspired by what you're doing, and I need to work 8 more into my daily just check in, especially because your intention is just to use it for a few minutes, 10 minutes or less, 8 minutes a day. I have time for that, and to feel inspired by that would be a great addition to my day. So I encourage other parents to take that journey along with me and see how that feels. Because I can tell you, while I have to be active on Instagram, I have a lot of parents there who are engaged with this message. I don't feel good when I'm done looking at Instagram. It doesn't make me feel good. And so hopefully this transition over the next few years can be towards us all eliminating the platforms that make us feel bad and are unsafe, especially for children, and starting to use platforms like 8 that can inspire us and inspire positive change. So Zoe, thank you so much for this time. I can't wait to see you in person very soon.
I cannot wait. We're going to have a great week next week.
Yes, we are.